Planning Commission work session for Monday, May 20th. Stand is Steve will lead us in our invocation and Ashley in our Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for your blessings. Be with this planning commission tonight, Lord, and the participants. Bless each one of us that's here tonight. Guide and direct and give a safe passage home. We ask in Christ's name. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Commissioners. Nikki, have you heard from Dennis?
Supervisor Davis will be unable to make it to
Oh,
the
no,
meeting this
okay, all right, we have 7 of 8, so we do have a quorum. Brings us to adoption of agenda. Nikki, is there any changes to the agenda?
No, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Do I have a motion to approve as presented then?
So moved.
second.
Okay, have a motion and second.
We'll do hand
If
raising.
there's no discussion, we will vote.
Actually, if everyone could do a hand raising.
Do the hand, okay, all right, all in favor, raise your hand. That is unanimous. Okay.
Thank you.
So are we doing hand voting tonight?
Oh,
work
Just tonight on work session.
Okay. All right, that brings us to the discussion topics, the comprehensive plan, and we will turn the floor over to you, sir. Meeting is yours.
Alrighty. Well, I just want to say thanks for y'all's patience while we're making the transition from Todd to me taking over on the project. Looking forward to working more involved on this project specifically, and hope we can, make the rest of the plan run as smoothly as possible. So just first going to go over the changes made to Section 3. From last meeting, Section 4, there were no changes to be made and no changes to be made to the citizen survey summary results. So hopefully after we go through these changes here, we'll have up to Section 4 complete and then move on to Phase 3, which is beginning with land use.
Can you I know the last time was a few, maybe a half dozen changes. Can you identify those for us on what page, and we'll look at them?
Yep. So first, just minor change on page 36, added a spacing above administrative facilities just for formatting. And then on page 37, changed John Tyler and updated it to its current name, Brightpoint Community College. And then also added in a piece about Reynolds Community College, the campus in Goochland. And that's no longer called J. Sargent Reynolds either, it's just Reynolds Community College. On page 39, added actually a number of hospitals that I found were technically within the 60-mile mark that we put within Buckingham County, including some of the ones that were brought up from the last meeting. And then the up top there, so these are just with the track changes on, so that bullet was just deleted at the top up there.
Go ahead, George.
I'm sorry. Good. What?
Just on page 39, the third bullet, I'm not sure why
Oh,
it's
you just-
showing.
oh.
Yeah, I'm just saying, that's just deleted. Already added just another space above library for formatting. Any questions about any of the healthcare?
Yes, go ahead, George.
The name, the VA Hospital Richmond,
Yes.
it's actually Hunter Homes.
Hunter Homes? Okay.
I think it's Hunter Homes McGuire Veterans something.
Yeah, I can look into that and make sure we get the correct name for it.
Okay.
Anything else noticed on the list?
Please.
So, next change is on page 63. And this is basically change the paragraph under farmland a little bit. So I'll give you some time to read through.
Yes, ma'am, you go ahead.
I do have a question, and under the, when we listed at a public library,
I'm not sure about the library in Yogaville, if it's public or not.
Buckingham was one in the region.
Yeah, I saw that as well, but I'm not too familiar. I just assumed it was since it was in the comp plan, but I didn't look into the.
Public library.
I can try to confirm if that's public or not.
Because if it's not a public library, why are we listing it?
Right. Alrighty. So next change is on page 63 with the farmland. And basically we just updated to make it a little bit more accurate. As it was stated that the number of farms has been fluctuating over the course of the last 20 years, but it's actually remained pretty steady, constant, and just a very slight increase. And then we also added in the specific information about whether or not cropland, pasture land, and woodlands. I think there was a question about whether or not woodland was included in this section. And it does. There is 28,260 acres of woodland included in this farmland figure.
I saw in the section you had forest land. You have woodland here incorporated in the farm. Is that added into get one answer for the timberland? 80%
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe it's all calculated.
I figured it was, just clarification.
Yeah, and these numbers are just from the 2022 USDA agricultural census. Any questions about this section?
Lisa?
Next change is on 65. We just added a sentence about the planned economic impact of the poultry group, since there was a question about the impact, since we had stated kind of what would happen with the Tyson's facility closing. And then on,
Chairman,
Yes, sir, go ahead.
with regard to the statistics, like an estimated $358 million loss annually, I mean, is there, do you have a reference for that?
that is pulled from, yes, that is, I mean, we have a reference for that. I can add in where that information comes
Yeah, I
from.
mean, when that stuff, yeah, exactly. When these statistics, it seems to me there ought to be a reference noted on the document, it seems to me anyway.
Yeah, I've seen that in a number of different documents talking about the poultry group, but I can try to figure out where it originally was estimated from.
Okay, thank you.
And then, so the next change, I'm not sure if this is one that Todd made before he left. It's not one that I made, or I'm not sure if it was left over from the last one, but it's just on page 71 where it says forest land makes up 86% of total acres in Buckingham County. And those are all the changes that we had from the section. So the next thing I wanted to go over was just kind of an update of the schedule, with having taken over now and trying to get an idea for how the rest of it's going to lay out. Because when I did a status check, we were at technically 6 months behind schedule for where we were planning on being at this point in time. So one thing that I did add into the kind of tentative schedule of meetings is hopefully places where we can confirm the sections and confirm that they're finished, so we can move forward to the next section. And the idea will be that we present the material to you, we are able to get feedback, we incorporate that feedback to you, present it again, get feedback again, and then that'll be the confirmation of the sections. Hopefully by doing it in that way, we'll be able to move forward and stick to the schedule that we have. And I understand a lot of that does fall on our shoulders in presenting you high quality information. But do you all have a copy of the tentative schedule of meetings? Okay. So basically, with the rest of today, the idea is to present the draft of the future land use map that was created based on the discussions that were had in this meeting. And then we'll move on to actually drafting the land use section in the comp plan and present that to you in the next meeting. So for the discussion on the future land use map, I'm not exactly sure what you all would think is the best kind of method of going about giving feedback for it, but should I bring it forward to the center here and we can discuss it? Can you all see it fine from there? Oh, do you have a copy of it as well?
Sure.
Oh, okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Then that works as well then. Perfect. I have a copy too. So one thing, I mean, just from my perspective, having not really been involved in this creation of this, is I would like to kind of understand a little bit the idea of having growth corridors along all the major highways.
Right.
And just from my brief experience in this planning role, I've recently attended a VDOT transportation land use forum, and they talked about how important land use planning is for transportation specifically. And one potential problem I could see with having high growth corridors stretching so far from all of the village centers and all of the kind of small little communities that we have is the potential for sprawl, because you're not exactly sure where the growth is going to occur. So I would like to at least propose the idea of getting a little bit more specific with the areas that we're considering high growth.
Well, the thinking behind the growth corridors on all the main traffic corridors was that's where the normal progression of growth was going to occur because of the good access. We had talked to Todd in regards to doing it on all major corridors, and they would only be a quarter of a mile wide, limiting it to just, basically the road frontage, or just off of it. I understand what you're saying, but you're suggesting rather than having the whole length of it is try to segment it?
Basically, trying to leave the growth to the areas where there's a particular place you want growth to occur. So for instance, maybe around the Dillwyn area would be a prime area where we would want growth to occur. And there might be another village center somewhere else where we want to, and also in doing it a little bit more specific, you can kind of tailor the types of growth you want to occur there. Whether it's more commercial growth, more industrial growth, more recreational, open space type growth.
I see your point. I guess my question to you is because we have limited septic and water, but basically confined to Dillwyn. I'm not sure it's if we want the growth, I'm not sure it's feasible to tailor to just certain specific spots, I guess is what I'm thinking. I'm not opposed to your idea, just.
Yeah, and this is just a question as well, because I'm just trying to get a kind of a grasp of what is the idea behind this map. For instance, like if I was trying to write a letter to a prospective business that was looking at Buckingham County as a potential county to relocate to, why would this attract them to want to relocate their business to this county?
So your suggestion is to limit it to areas that have growth already?
I'm not exactly sure, but to be more, I guess, specific with where we're placing the growth, and probably, yes, like around the areas where that type of growth is maybe already occurring, but I don't think that necessarily has to be the case. But I think we should try to define the areas in the county based on maybe their natural characteristics. So I've just been, in kind of my transition into this role, I've been reading a bunch of other comprehensive plans from different counties. And it is pretty common where they have these different, like village areas, they call them, and then those village areas have defined characteristics about them. And then depending on the nature of that village area would kind of determine what type of growth would be natural for it to occur there.
One of the things that we had set up in the original comprehensive plan, or the previous, I reckon really the last two, was encourage and amend the growth corridors, because it was sort of the natural development the way things developed anyway, and allowed change in zoning, say from agriculture to business with the by rights, but anything outside of that, they couldn't do it. We did have some issues with that. It should have been specified specifically for the growth corridor. That was some issues with a couple applications we had. What's the take from the other commissioners? You want to try to take out?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I think when we sat and discussed this with Todd, the idea was to eliminate the kind of problems that we had with the couple of requests that were made. So what we did is we made those main road corridors growth so that we not only could attract these businesses, but would also allow for applicants to come in. And we've had a lot of applicants come in and say, well, I want to be along 15. I'm in an agricultural area. I'd like to zone it something different. And then, we get into these discussions because maybe it's just outside of a growth area. I think I realize what you're saying, that maybe we ought to have a village center that drives the kind of commerce that goes into a particular corridor. But I think when you look at Buckingham, I mean, we're basically forestry and farmland. So we may have a couple of village centers, but I don't know how well defined they are as a specific commercial corridor or a commercial village center. We don't have a specific village center that's technical and another one that's maybe industrial. What we have are villages that pop up, and I think it's kind of a reverse situation. In my view, I think if we invite businesses to take a look at these mainstream corridors, we're gonna create a need for various, I wouldn't mind the sprawl, is what I guess what I'm trying to say. It seems to me we would invite then the village center growth, because it becomes a chicken and egg thing. I think it would, if we invite the businesses, then the communities will come. If we wait for the communities, I don't know that we're ever gonna get the communities, and therefore we won't get the businesses. So the corridor idea was to invite the businesses, to encourage them to come in, and hopefully, maybe we can build some population centers. I mean, that's what I thought, Mr. Chairman, I don't know.
No, that was pretty much the focus of it, and then, of course, it changed the ability to change the zoning by just requesting it was an incentive to ask business, that was an incentive for them to locate in the growth corridors. What's the other commissioners, how the other commissioners feel? You feel if we're at a point that you want to, rather than having them on the corridor, the main highways, restricted some?
Mr. Chairman, like the way that we have it set up, that we had discussed with Todd, I don't think that based on the applications that we've seen, if we want growth, I don't think we have the luxury of dissuading people, even if it's 1 mile on the other side of, some colored map. So I think having it on the corridors all the way through the county gives us, as a planning commission, the ability to have more flexibility in evaluating projects that come through.
George, Calvin, you have any opinion on it?
Flexibility that it has now. Option and say out. I'm looking at 56. My direction, and remember, we just put up that. Haven't been back by there, but the guy on 24, not 24, straight out 60. There was the gas station, there was issue, there was absolutely nothing but desert. So it encourages what the community needs, a community that convenience store was something. So I like it. Develop the spot.
Okay. Calvin, you have an opinion?
We did this, and I was fine.
I think it's consensus that we'll go with this for now. What we can do in the future, we'll have to revisit this in 5 years anyway, is if we see an area that's starting to progress and develop more, we can then change it at that point. But I think it's more the consensus of the planning commission. We're going to try this, and because we are soil rural, and see if this will stimulate some development at least along these corridors, which is a natural progression of things anyway. Like I said, if we had more soil and, had more water and septic, and it would probably, I would definitely feel like that, but we're so limited with the amount we got. So anyhow, we're gonna, that long speech is to say we're gonna go with what we got.
That's great, yeah. And this definitely helps me understand better too, because
Right.
map was basically just presented to me with no background information. So hearing the perspective of y'all, I understand the value of the growth corridors. So thank you
Yeah.
for.
Well, like I say, if something developed, over the next few years, if something in one section, say on 15 and Gold Hill starts developing a lot, then we can address it, at that point. Because we would have achieved what we set our goals out for, is to get business and commerce in, so.
Okay. So the goal of this is to try to bring businesses anywhere, basically.
At this point, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Try to increase the tax base other than the private citizen.
Hey, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Is it are we at the point when we ought to discuss the changes you were talking? I mean, it doesn't look to me like we're gonna get any more subject matter updating future land use. Are we?
It's, we can at this point, or we can, what we wanted to do is, as I spoke of earlier, as well, Pete reminded me there, we want to have caveats in regards to these growth corridors, that the zoning, making the incentive to just change the zoning by requesting that to, say, from agriculture to B1, would only be limited to the growth corridors, or not 5 miles away from it or something. They came up on one of our cases, applications, last year, I believe it was. And it was not our intention. I happened to be on the planning commission when we did that, to try to spur some businesses coming in on the main corridors. And that was not our intention, to have it where it would be countywide if they wanted to. So we need to come up with some language to make it specific to the growth corridors, that we can do the changing, that incentive of changing the zoning is only for those areas.
Okay, and that's in the narrative for the land use section? Or it should be?
It would have to assume there, or it either would be when we address specifically the growth corridor. And I guess there's several ways to go at it. I think, Pete, did Mr. Wright suggest maybe even a building permit before you bring a building permit? So there's several options that we could look at. The main thing we're trying to do, is incentivize business to come in, so we don't want to make it too tough for them, but we want to make sure everybody understands that it's only for those specific areas, not 5 miles one way or the other from it. So, because we are, the county is so rural. So any language you can suggest, we would certainly entertain.
Okay, yeah, I'll definitely work on that for the presenting of the next section. In terms of the map here, though, I guess then it looks like what you all were hoping for.
Yes. Anybody have suggestions? I think so. I mean, just my own opinion. I believe so. We had looked at the growth corridors. We looked at the few areas that we set up at village centers, Yogaville being one, of course, and then around Dillon, and I think the area between Dillon and the courthouse. One. And then down in my area, New Canton, we had several, that might need to be looked at, Nikki. What's your take on that? Because in the village center, we've got 2 developments, Coal Creek Social Hall. But we also have a new power plant, Bear Garden, and then that's where also my application for solar farms going in. So we got a lot of mixed use there. Maybe that should be looked at for changing, or where do you think is any need in it?
We have 2 designated actual village center zoning districts, and Yogaville area would be one, and located here in this courthouse area. In that particular area, the Marshall Magisterial District along 15 in Arvonia, it was the Gold Hill Village was identified. Now, what Tyler brought up earlier in regards to rethinking and actually putting into place some plans, and what would happen with sprawl is that this allows an opportunity for the planning commission and ultimately the board to determine where they would like to see certain types of growth take place. It gives an opportunity for a proactive planning measure. So if you are identifying certain areas that you would view that would best serve small rural neighborhoods, subdivisions. Of course, the majority of the county now is zoned agricultural, and within that agricultural zoning district, certain things such as single-family homes are allowed. We do have other designations for actual subdivisions, RSA 1 and 2, just to name a couple. Those typically happen when you are viewing a major subdivision application, and it's for a specific area that the applicant has determined, because maybe there's been a purchase of a piece of land, but not necessarily what the planning commission and the board has thought would be a proper place or a more suitable place that would allow for commercial and business growth, along with maintaining the agricultural and forestry designation throughout the county. So there you would be controlling where that money multiplier would actually be placed. So if you're saying that a good look in that particular area along 15 North in the Arvonia, New Canton, Gold Hill area, this would be a good time to think about that type of growth in that area and others here in the county.
Right. Yeah, my only question was in regards to the power generation. You have that power plant. Of course, it's right there with the little community of Liberty. I mean, it's on the north end, of course, next to the river. So I guess it could be left as is, because it is those two subdivisions, even though they're large acreage subdivision, not a normal subdivision. I guess we could leave those as is. One question, and I'm gonna throw this at you, Commissioner. I'm not sure why we didn't do it along Route 20 North. You have, what is it, Forest
Ridge.
Yeah, which is already there. I'm not sure why we hadn't set up a village center there. Being on the committee before, I know we discussed it, but I can't recall why our decision was made not to have a village center, say from, it's not Ollie's now, but from Ollie's to the county line or to the bridge, because you have Forest, and you have also, as you go towards Scottsville, farms on the right, but you have those now large lots that run down to the river with people there. Then you have, there wasn't also the gentleman that came and got the storage units and all. What was it? Not Spangler? Spangler, yeah. Got that. So I'm not sure why we didn't set up on. I can't really say. How does the commission feel about that? Ashley, how do you like things?
Yeah, this map at the end here looks like it turns a different color yellow. Does that designate village center?
I think that was probably just part of the old map. We had brought the growth center up to basically just past the center. But I don't know that you couldn't take it from, create a village center there, because it's sort of already occurring.
It is, and it may just have been the thought process. I believe that subdivision came in just prior to zoning when it was first introduced. Section 7 of the Forest Ridge subdivision, all of those final lots have been purchased, and there are homes being constructed
Yeah.
very regularly. The majority of the lots there have been purchased and are built on. And of course, the major subdivision that took place with the larger lots along Route 20 and the James River, those lots have sold as well, and building permits have been issued for structures there. So of course, that has happened. No thoughts, really pulling together. Those are individuals, working and living in and around Buckingham. Where are they spending their money? Those are the things, that money multiplier coming back into the county and allowing for certain conveniences and services to be available to our citizens within, certain areas. It's definitely a good place to identify a different type of growth in that area.
Yeah, to me, it just makes sense because it's already occurring anyway. It's even on 652 Bridgeport Road. You have houses on both sides there at least for the first half a mile. So it's growing, maybe not at a tremendous pace at the moment, but it is definitely growing. What's the thoughts on other commissioners? You think we ought to put us a village center there?
Probably could expand that back, like you said, to Centenary at least.
Mm-hmm. How's the other commissioners feel on that?
With me.
May even go as far as Midway Market. I mean, if you wanted to go ahead up to 655.
Yeah, well, you got Golftown Road there, you know, as well, so. We can start smaller if you want to, and say go from Bridgeport Road to the river along 20 and just expand it out to a village center. And for now, and then it can,
There's a few businesses right there in Centenary, so even
Yeah.
if you took it back up that high as well to capture some of that business.
I would say go back up to Centenary, because it's between Bridgeport and
Yeah, you got
Centenary,
to.
it's no distance. I think that's, is it Rock Island? Centenary is Rock Island Road. Yeah, and you've got the winery,
Right, that's on.
that's on, is it on Rock Island?
Rock Island.
It's on Rock Island. And so I would bring it all the way back up to Centenary
okay.
and to the river.
How about got any suggestions on the width? How far you want to take it off of Route 20? You could use, you know, you got the county roads, you can always use them as a natural boundary if you choose to.
Mr. Chairman, my question is, what is built off of the corridors? The only thing I can think of is the market at Glenmore is off.
Really, at this point, my memory probably is not real great, but I don't think all the businesses are all right along 20 right at the moment. But if you,
On 602, there's the 602 and,
oh, you talking about Glenmore?
I'm talking about Glenmore. That's, what other businesses, how far back are businesses off of the main corridor? That's my question. Because right now, that's the only one that
At
comes to
Glenmore,
mind. Comes to mind.
you got Palmer's and the store.
Palmer's in the store, yeah, the garage and the store off.
Anything else you can think of at Centenary? I mean Glenmore, excuse me. Yeah, that are two things that come to mind.
Mr. Chairman, I was just looking for a point of reference, thinking what is off, because most of the businesses are either on 20, on the highway, but not far off. So I was just trying to figure out, and the store at Glenmore was the only thing I could think of, but you're right, Palmer's Garage is there. So I don't know what other businesses and other localities are off.
I guess most of the residents at Glenmore now are on Firehouse Road, aren't they, Nikki?
There's quite a few at Firehouse Road and in the surrounding area. Woodland Church Road has grown. Well, there have been building permits issued along Howardsville Road from 56 to Nelson. I would say that in the northwestern portion of the county, it's probably still the least inhabited and probably the least number of building permits we see.
Yes, ma'am, go ahead.
Thinking about the boundaries that we're setting now, I know we're looking at the future. I know that greenhouse is for sale, right? And that is hundreds of acres. But if we do this, if we say Centenary, then that becomes, that's, okay, so we're still saying that this is, you know, the growth corridor.
If you stop at Centenary, that would not be included.
Correct. So now, based on you and Pete's quandary, if we are making caveats that it only applies to things in that growth corridor, if someone decides to take those hundreds of acres and make it into this lovely business that we can't foresee right now, are we pigeonholing ourselves somehow?
Yeah, I guess, Nikki, being that was operational, would that be grandfathered in for a business?
It hasn't operated in a number time frame, and
So
it has
it's
been
expired.
and it has been actively up for sale. But remember, in an A1, a greenhouse and a nursery can operate by right. It does not
Right.
require
Right,
anything
but if
more.
someone else buys it, I'm saying there's hundreds of acres, they could do something else with,
Are you talking about
Like a new
new
business.
homes or new, it depends.
either, yeah.
So if it's something that's permitted by right in an A1, leaving it in an A1, then they'd be able to. Otherwise, they would seek an SUP or a request to the Board of Supervisors to entertain a zoning map amendment.
Yeah, so that's what I was getting at, if they wanted to rezone to a B1, but now we're saying it's not in one of these growth corridors, based on our new approach, does that hurt us
Well,
somehow?
actually,
I mean,
it
it's
will be in the growth corridor.
Growth corridor, but maybe
Maybe
not
the
in
front of it, but maybe not the back, that's what I'm getting, I mean, I don't know how deep in the
Well, I
weeds we're
agree,
getting
we,
here.
we said a quarter mile, so
Yeah.
it'll take in most of it. I think we
Okay.
can make, these are not concrete dimensions, they're just,
Right.
yeah. But I forgot we did extend it, so it will still be in the growth corridor. So we can still do the same thing, cut it off a centenary and make it a little wider. Yeah. Any suggestions on the width? Go half a mile either side of?
I can try to look into the businesses that
Okay.
are there and see
You
what
know
makes
where
sense.
we're referencing our centenary?
I have it written down here, so
Okay.
I'm gonna look into
Yeah,
it.
it's, and half from there to the river going into, once you going into Albemarle County. Also, while I'm thinking about it, if, I think I'm correct, Yogaville does not want to grow anymore. Wasn't that something in the comments that, came back? So it's set up as a village center, rightfully so. You might want to make reference to satisfy them that they don't particularly want it anymore. I don't know how you reframe that in the narrative. But I could see them saying something if we don't address that. I don't know how you would do that.
Can definitely look into how we can do that.
Okay. Well, any suggestion? It doesn't have to be, but they made it was made a point in the information we got back that they felt like they'd grown all they needed. They're reluctant to, or apparently don't want to grow anymore.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
wasn't that kind of contradicting what was done when we did the mapping down at the community center? When we did the maps down at the community center
Yeah.
and said, what would you like to see in this area?
I mean, it's right now, it's a growth area. We're not taking that away. I'm just in the narrative, it might say that they really don't care to, they feel like they're at capacity, or I don't know.
Maybe for commercial or
Yeah,
certain types of growth.
Come with some ideas and we'll see if it makes any sense.
Okay.
We'll leave it as a village center though, because it is a village center. Any other, we've got the mining, of course, and then we've got the parks and the wildlife. Any other changes or additions you'd like to see to it? Yes, sir.
Going north on 15, you've got a village growth center between Johnson Station and 610 there.
Yeah.
Personally, I'm all for that part of the county growing significantly. But to the left, you've got it to the west side of 15, and about 80% of that is a conservation easement now.
That was a request during the last discussion prior to COVID, so that will be included in.
You can just flip it to the east side of 15, and that would be fine with me.
Because the planning commission actually adjusted. West of,
Because all of your growth is to the east, really. Your homes, Henry Woods, the houses there, your old business is there. Eddie Wood Sawmill, Old Boys, all that's right there. Now you have something? Oh, I'm not saying so. Any other suggestions?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
has there any thought been given to possibly zoning separately for solar installations?
I know that it's been brought up. I don't know what any advantage would be because they're so sporadic through the county because of the logistics of where they gotta be located to having the connections. I don't know if it would be a need or not. Pete, can you think of any?
Well, the thing that keeps coming up is that we're using good agricultural land, turning it into solar installations. There are areas, I mean, in my investigations, there are areas in the county that would appear to be very suitable for this sort of activity. I mean, you've got flat gravelly land that's not being used for much of anything on a number of corridors, and you wonder why, if people want to put solar in the county, they're not looking at that. Now, I realize they're looking at, where they can put a transfer, or, how they can get the electricity to where they have to go. But it just seems to me that, that we do have land that I think would be suitable for photovoltaic and solar installations. It's just, and if we could find areas where it would be most likely advantageous for us to put that type of business here, it should be zoned accordingly. It would eliminate a lot of the issues with regard to the use of good timber, good agricultural land being used for, solar panels. It's just a question, I guess, and a suggestion.
I see your thought. I just don't know if it's gonna be feasible, due to two factors. One is the logistics of it, because especially the industrial side, they have to have that main grid power line either crossing one of the properties or, to connect and put the substation on. And so that limits, that's one limitation on the areas that you would designate, at least for industrial. The other thing I will tell you that probably will arise is that if you designate an area and there are several landowners in that area that are adamant against a solar farm, you may get some blowback, and that's putting it nicely.
I understand that, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're getting that.
But I understand what your point is, yeah.
I guess my point was, I would like to see a lot less of the controversy, the blowback, because I think what happens now is you get these big companies that come in and they convince a landowner that that landowner ought to give up 400 or 500 acres because there's some money in it for them. And what that does is it uses up some pretty nice land, number one, but number two, it does end up sort of encroaching on, or appears to encroach on, some neighbors. Whereas if, I mean, we've had a couple of installations that I went out and looked at when they were being proposed, I thought were pretty nicely done. They were out in the middle of nowhere, essentially. In looking at some of those, I've also, in those travels, I've noticed that there are some areas in the county that are basically flat and gravelly, and there's not a whole lot growing on them. And I don't know if, who owns it, or if they had any use for it, but it just seems to me that, again, I don't know where the transfer station would go or how they get the electricity or where they have to go, but if there was some study that went into this, it would make some sense for the county to begin to set aside properties. And even if they wanted to bring it to the public and say, look, this is kind of where we think this stuff ought to be, at a public hearing, you could find some people that would voice their view. But it just seems to me to be it would eliminate a lot of the issues that we seem to run into when we talk about solar installations, particularly those 1,000-acre solar installations. And I'm worried too, because a lot of this stuff goes on land that has a grade. And, right when I first took this position, I got involved with people who were really concerned about an installation that literally, when the rain came, would wash away their growable soil. And and they were worried about how would they feed their cattle if the topsoil had washed away. And they were downgrade from, from where that solar farm was gonna be. And you have people that say, well, okay, fine, we're gonna put holding ponds together, and there's all kinds of engineering that goes on, but in that particular study, when I was working on that one, found out that those solar people never even talked to those landowners. They had a general meeting, but no one ever approached those farmers. So if there was an opportunity to sit down and even have somebody study and say, this is where these installations would make most sense, and then have the board do a public hearing on those, it seems to me that we could zone that property and eliminate a lot of the angst that goes into the development of solar in our county. It's just an idea.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, yes, ma'am.
also, when you think about, if you zone an area and there are people who are quite vocal about their area not being designated right for solar panels, they also look at it and saying, oh, this is favoritism, because now you've designated whoever, people in that area, you all can get solar panels, we can't over here. So you might end up with a just as vocal group saying, why not us? How come our property, what's better? Maybe you're showing favoritism the other way. So you may have the same long public comments either way.
I don't disagree with that. I guess I will just say, it's something worth looking at, considering. Because the Board of Supervisors have put a limitation on the amount of acreage that can be in solar farms anyway. We're almost at that point. So, however, in saying that, next year or a year following, if that gentleman delegate from Northern Virginia brings back his, and the state has the authority to, and they approve it, and the state has the authority to come in and override a county or locality's decision, then it might become very important to try to
Right.
minimize, what the amount of where it's at. So, anyhow, just food for thought. And so, any other things on the map at this point?
I just kind of recap real quick what I got for the feedback on the map. So are we thinking about doing a new village center at the top of 20, northern portion of 20? Or is that something we should try to add into the map?
On 20?
Yep. The northern portion of 20 from Centenary to the,
Yes.
to the river?
To the county line, which is,
County line.
yeah.
That's pretty much the only addition that we have to the map, it seems like.
And then, as Calvin indicated, at the Gold Hill, you see the little block right there on your map?
Between 15 and the railroad?
Yeah, that should be really laid to the other side. You've got Route 610 and 622 really fits right there on the east side,
So remove it from the other side and switch it to the other side? Okay.
because that's where the growth is between, well, along 610 and also 622.
And does that village center have a name?
Gold Hill, didn't it?
Gold Hill? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry. And then for the new village center, is there gonna be a name or is there a natural name?
Referring to 20?
Yep.
I'm open for suggestions.
What I call
Steve, you're down that way, give me a name.
You put the Centenary corridor on there, it's Centenary to Scottsville.
Centenary? Okay.
Centenary Village Center. And for right now, we're gonna look at Glenmore, correct? We haven't made a decision on that? Anybody want one definitely at Glenmore, or just think about it this point? We'll think on that one.
My question about Glenmore had to do with the distance from the major arteries.
Well, it's, you've got a village center in my mind, I mean, it starts with something like Glenmore,
Glenmore,
because you
yeah.
got businesses and homes around it, and that's sort of, you got the mixed use. So, you sort of already got that a little bit, but, I mean, it is not a lot there, sort of like a lot of places in the county.
Got Midway Market too.
Midway,
Yeah.
Midway.
Midway,
but Midway's on 20,
right on 20.
but Glenmore is
To the-
back up in the
to the
woods.
west. Be careful what you say about Glenmore now.
I drive by there frequently.
We'll think on it. I don't know if it's a necessity at this point or not.
So I didn't know if that was a distance, looking at that, taking Glenmore as a distance away from a major artery.
Oh, really, it's a good suggestion, because it is a little community there.
It definitely is.
That's what you sort of look for.
With
on the
updated
initial
gas
start-
stations.
At least in my opinion, the initial
With-
start of a village center is having the mixed use. You know, where you got a little business and homes.
And he just put in new pumps. Okay?
There you go. Big
So-
improvement. He has made a nice looking store.
Right.
They did a pay at the pumps, recently, you know,
Credit
in
card
thinking,
now.
and thinking about that area and convenience stores that have operated for a number of years and kind of serviced the outer lying areas. I guess, Bryant's store in the Arvonia area, that's still operational, right?
Now, wait a minute, hold on. Brian's store is not in Arvona.
I'm sorry, New Canton, I know that there's a
Yeah,
dividing
hold on,
line
that's,
somewhere.
that's East LA.
East LA. Well, I wanted to
Lower
properly
Arvonia.
identify that there's a,
It's in the village center of,
is that still in the village center? I thought that was further off of the,
no, we went all the way
Still
to
in
the
the village
county
center?
line.
okay, good.
Because you had Coles Creek subdivision,
Just wanted to make sure they were included.
Brian's store, and then Social Hall right behind it.
Got all of Bickford's Corner.
And all of Big, which is, yeah, that's a long story.
It is a
Oh,
good
well-
area down there though. You
A lot of good people coming down there, man.
I agree with that. But, you know, you had the restaurant right there, you know.
It was really nice
It
at one
really
time.
was nice, yeah.
Question,
Yes, sir.
this, I'm getting off subject here. Is Jack's, Cactus Jack's, I was getting gas in a drink last week, and they were bringing stuff in to the restaurant. And it has a sign above it, Indian cuisine.
Been up there for 2 years, John.
Oh, never mind. Never mind, I'm way behind schedule. I thought perhaps something was
I
happening
thought
there.
so too. They do come in and out of there pretty frequently though.
Anyhow, it's an old restaurant.
Yeah.
They were bringing stuff in, and I said, well, maybe something's gonna happen, but,
Private party.
yeah, apparently so. So anyway, it was, I thought, anyhow, we can only hope. All right, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No worries.
Yeah, we got a little bit off.
I'm
Of
new to the
course,
county, so it's good to learn this different stuff that's happening.
All right, do you have anything else, questions for us?
I have one question. I don't want to hold up the meeting on this.
No,
at
you're not
all.
holding up.
But it's just a little bit of a, and I know this is Buckingham County future land use, but I've just always been kind of curious about the Dillwyn zoning and why it stops where it does and doesn't include any of the commercial businesses, such as Food Line and that whole area.
Let's see. You referring to the designation as high growth area?
Right. And just the town of Dillwyn. And
From
I
route,
think-
from the intersection of Route 15 and 60,
Yeah.
back towards the town of Dillon, but we're not including them. They have their own
Right.
zoning ordinance. 500 feet from the edge of the road, I believe it was in either 2007 or 2009, there was an update. And all of the parcels along that particular area are zoned B1 from the edge of the road and back 500 feet, and then 500-foot designation. If it's the remainder of the parcel, it would be A1. B1 in that particular area.
I think also one factor was availability of water and sewer. But that's the rationale behind it.
And then, but so is the high growth area there, is it considered Dillwyn still, or is it not like an unnamed area?
Oh, you referring to the little town of Dillon itself?
So it looks like there's Dillwyn, and then the high growth area right next to Dillwyn is that still considered Dillon, or is it, like an unnamed?
Well, that
area?
would be the industrial park and all of the businesses there along 15.
Is that a village area, or?
No, I think we had it correctly designated as high-growth area, because we have the water and septic there available. And hoping that, that's actually the most active part of the county at this point, and probably will be for quite a few years.
Right. Yeah, that's what it does seem like it's the most, centralized point, but just designated high growth area. Right there, okay. That was my only question.
Any questions? Go ahead, JD.
Not really a question, but just a comment. I mean, I think all these growth corridors are fine and all. The only thing I worry about, I just think that it's gonna have to still be the right types of businesses and stuff. Still gonna have to be, critical on what you allow in those areas. My only fear is so many people coming in now and just being like, want to start a business, but it's not gonna be beneficial to the community really. And you just get a bunch of people coming in and saying, oh, well, y'all said that's a growth corridor, where you want to see growth, so why are you telling me no?
Well,
That's kind of my only concern about it, but I guess we're just going to have to look at each application individually and make the decision, but.
Well, what you can do is, and this may be a good time to update it, is your business, what's allowed in a business district. Because that's where we're going, the incentive is to go in that growth quarter, and that get your zoning changes of business, but then you got that list of by right. Probably the thing to do is look at that and make sure you're comfortable what is by right. Because outside of that, they have to get a special use permit. So that would be the thing to look at. I think would probably be, you could do it either way. You could change the growth area, but it'd probably be more effective, I think, JD, to change the, what's by right, what's allowed in business. And we've got a list of those. And look at them, make sure everything looks like you feel comfortable with it, and then, as you say, it will benefit the county versus just benefiting the application. So. Any other questions, comments? Nikki, you got anything? No. I guess you have any other for us?
Nope. This is
Okay,
good, yeah.
all right, so I think we're scheduled for June.
For the work session? Yes, it would be June 17th, which is the third.
And we will go look at the revisions in the map here.
Yep.
And then some of the language we were talking about in regards to trying to specifically get the growth quarters where, it's in that quarter for the change in the incentives.
Yeah, we'll have the whole next section of the land use to present, which will include that.
All right, very good. Well, sure appreciate it. Thank you. That brings us to commission matters and concerns. Any commissioners have anything they need to voice at this time? Seeing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Any discussion? All in favor, raise your right hand. That was unanimous, Nick. Thank y'all very much. We are adjourned.